I'm making this video because I want to convey a sense of empathy for other creatures that I don't think is easy to understand unless you are there and you can see and feel and understand the animal. And so maybe a lot of people don't have that opportunity, and I just wanted to kind of explain it a little bit so that in hopes that people will have more empathy for the souls of the animals. Today I posted a short video of a deer rescue that we did this morning, and I just wanted to convey a little bit about what the experience was when we were interacting with that deer. So this morning when I was on my way to work, I'm a bus driver, and it's a really strict schedule. So you can't be late, you can't stop. So on my way to work, I was driving down that Peak Stretch, and I looked to my left as I was going by and slowed down and saw that there was a deer that was laying in the grassy shoulder of the road. And she wasn't laying there per se. She was in what you would consider a relaxed sitting position, like your dog would do if she was laying on the rug, right? With her head mildly up, but definitely alive. And I knew that this was not a good situation for the deer. I knew that she wouldn't be laying there in that position or sitting there in that position if she was okay, if she was healthy. So I made a note of where she was and put out a quick call to rescuers that work with Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue. We are on a hotline, so there's like a text that it's a group text that gets sent out depending on your area, and if you can respond, you let them know that you're responding, and hopefully several people will respond. Which, by the way, Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue Center does train people to become rescuers and transporters, and you can commit to as much or as little as you're able to. So I would really highly recommend becoming a certified rescuer and transporter. It's worth it. So anyway, I put out the call, and someone else was able to stop and check on the deer and did discover that she had lost some sort of mobility in her rear legs, and at that point was able to drag herself further into the thicket or the bushes that is just a little bit farther off the road. And a call was then put out for additional help, because even though she was not very mobilized, she was still strong enough to for one person or two people to not be able to handle, and so she would need to be sedated. So that is also something that the rescue center will train and certify people to be certified to sedate a larger animal, and which I am not. And so we had to wait for someone who is certified to do that to be able to become available. And so it happened that I finished my bus run and was on my way to my other job, and was able to stop and wait for the person that had the sedation. And so now I just want to explain this deer. So when we first saw her, she was aware. She was aware that we could see her, she could see us, and you know, her eyes were really big and fearful, and I'm sure she was in a tremendous amount of pain. She'd been hit by a vehicle, so that must have been a terrifying experience to begin with. And then she laid on the side of the road while the work vehicles went by for, you know, a while. So that also must have been terrifying for her not to be able to move. You could sense it in her eyes, and this just fear, and the big, beautiful eyes that were just searching for some sort of validation of whether or not we were going to harm her, if we were danger. And so before we even moved towards her, we talked to her gently and explained in some way, maybe there is a connection, a universal connection with souls, so that if we are calmly conveying that we're there to help her and talk softly and reassure her that we're there to help, hopefully somehow she can sense that energy. There is a universal energy that we convey, and when we're not being aggressive toward her, hopefully she can understand that. So we then began to move toward her. She was very far into the thicket, and at that point she became really scared and tried to get farther in and dragged herself a little bit further under a tree. And at that point you can see that she's really starting to panic. And as we got around the back side of her, then she really started to panic a lot, and she let out a cry. Now, you know, if you know deer, they don't make noise. They're very quiet animals, and so for her to let out, it was like a bleh, quite loud bleh. And at that point, you know that she's really panicking. They don't say anything, and so that was heartbreaking to hear that. And at that point, we could see her, she was starting to tremble. You could see in her ears, and her whole little body was just shaking. And just had to have been horrific. And I just want everyone to understand that she was feeling fear, pain and fear. And she's a soul, a soul with a heart and a mind and fear and thinking. She was thinking. There's a thought process. And so for anyone to think that they're a nuisance, okay, so humans are a nuisance too. And everything is a nuisance, right? At some point. But that one, it matters to that one in that moment. She's in pain, she's scared, she needs help. And for anyone to think, oh, she's just a nuisance, she's a soul. There's a soul there. And you can see it. You can see it in her eyes that are searching for some sort of understanding. If she's in fear, how is she going to get away? And then the cry that she makes because she can't get away. And then the trembling. It's fear. And she has no idea what our intentions are. All she knows is that she's in pain and she can't get away. I just wish that as humans, as the thinking humans that we are supposed to be, if we can have empathy for these creatures and help to end suffering. It didn't really take very long. It took only 20 minutes for us to get in there and sedate her and get some towels under her and gurney her out, and then she was transported to our local veterinarian, East Hampton Vet Clinic, and they are amazing, compassionate beings that care. Unfortunately, it was discovered that this girl had a shattered pelvis and was not able to be saved, rehabilitated. And so the kindest thing is to give her an intravenous shot that puts her out of her pain, and euthanized her. And the alternative would have been for her to lay in the thicket on the side of the road, not being able to move, not being able to feed or drink, and she would have starved to death laying there in pain, in agony, and in terror. And what a horrendous way to die. So please, if you are unfortunate enough to have an accident with wildlife and that being is injured but not dead, please call someone. Call Evelyn Alexander, Wildlife Rescue, call the police. They'll call. Call someone and have help come. Even if you don't stay there, just give detailed instructions and a message where this animal is, what you observed, and someone will come. We'll come and we'll find help somehow, at the very least, so that that one it matters to doesn't have to suffer for an extended period of time. Please. It matters.